I'm Amber.
Hi, I'm Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Corinne.
Hiya, I'm Danielle.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And together we are UnfiltHERed, where the her is no longer silent.
UnfiltHERed is the coming together of 5 neurodivergent women, and together we will be discussing all things neurodiversity: autism, ADHD, parenting, being parent carers, inclusion, and how these are led by our experiences of womanhood.
All voices are welcome here, and we do not discriminate. Our goal is to create a real, inclusive, safe space and community for everyone to be their unfiltered self.
This space is all about community and not competition, empowering others through their differences and removing stigma.
Whether you are here for yourself or a loved one, you are welcome here. So come and join us in this unfiltered conversation today.
Just a quick disclaimer before we begin. Even though we discuss certain medical conditions such as autism and ADHD, we are not medical professionals and cannot offer any medical advice. And this is not a diagnostic tool. This is a tool to be used in terms of your education and to gain support and clarity. But please don't take any medical advice from this. If you do have any concerns, please go and speak to your GP. Also, please note we are all neurodiverse, so you're going to get a lot of talking over each other. We're going to swear a little bit, and sometimes we're going to forget what we're saying mid-sentence, and that's okay. This is a female-based platform that aims to empower the voices of women who often, especially within the neurodivergent community, tend to be lost. As we are all females, we are all born females, we can only give our lived experience as females. But obviously, regardless of gender, you are welcome here, as this aims to be an inclusive space. I hope you enjoy the episode.
I'm wearing leopard print because it would have been Lucy's birthday today, so I thought I'd wear.
Happy birthday, Lucy.
I'm wearing leopard print. Hold on, I'll show you. I'm wearing a dress and leather trousers. So, Oscar's day 5 today, totally dry.
Wow, that's
Day
brilliant.
and night, because they put in such a bonkers incontinence plan for him, and I was like, the kid's got PDA. Like, you've got demands all over the shop here. I suggest that we remove them all and just see what he does. He started going, I need to wee. Oh. And now he don't even ask me, he just takes himself in there. Yesterday I walked past, I went, you all right, mate? And he went, I'm just having a piss. Brilliant. But he's been dry. So this morning I went in there and I said, come on, mate. Because obviously the mornings are really difficult for him, getting up, transitioning from night to day. It's like massive. He just shouts out, no, die. And now in the mornings we've got focus. It's like, come on, mate, we've got to get out of bed, got to have a wee, because he's busting. He's been dry all night. Day 5. I can't believe it.
Amazing.
Just got in, so that's why my hair's all like, you know, it all sticks together. It's doing me head in, but I'm just exhausted from this. I mean, I've got level 3 in first aid at work, so
well done.
any of you ever need CPR, I'll be your girl.
Amazing. Well done.
But, yeah, no, I think it's a good life skill to have, especially when you've got kids and same kids that are like prone to, you know, more shit going on. So
I did it 12 years ago, but I hardly remember anything that I learned. But I did mine through work. When I worked for the police, I was a first aider. Did you have to do the defibrillator when you got but I've good luck around me now. After a certain amount of like there's a certain time frame I'll remember something, and then once it gets to a certain point, it's all I need to do it again.
Yeah.
In that situation,
it was good.
You have to refresh it every 3 years, don't you?
Yeah.
And it's been like 12 years since.
Look how cute this is. I keep a notepad, so every day I just write a list of everything that I've got to do. Oscar must have got near mine. Look, he's drawn me a little picture.
Oh, it's like a little robot.
But he draws the cutest pictures, and then he gets a pen and he scribbles it out.
That's really common.
Look at this one. Remy made me for my notice board.
But see, if Oscar did that, he would ruin it then. Why do they do that?
She does that sometimes. That's why this one's pinned up high on the notice board. I had some lovely ones on the fridge, and she decided that she was going to do some kind of presentation, and then she just ripped a couple of them to shreds.
That's what Oscar does. He does loads of little drawings and then he rips them all up.
I never did it as a kid, so I don't know. Yeah, it was a full moon last night, and it's literally like a full mooning. I'm
feeling busy. I'm
Yeah.
feeling creative. I've lots of lists. I'm feeling a lot of energy, but I'm also feeling like I'm being a bit counterproductive to myself as well. You know, like when you want to get it done, but you're not. And you know, like I've got dramas with milk at the moment. That's running out for Oscar. I've got a discrepancy with the DWP for him. I've also got to get some quotes for his new buggy. It feels like it's all going to come to this massive, great big yes, we've sorted out all our problems, but it's all coming to a head. Yeah, and I've got big hair. You know what? It's Friday. I'm wearing leopard print. I'm not cooking tonight. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
We've been on the radio, Corinne, haven't we? Yesterday.
Yeah.
We have.
We
I'm
did.
still not over it.
We did Gateway Radio because our thing's out Monday, and we're doing another radio show on Monday.
We are on Monday.
Oh,
Go
yeah, that's
girls.
I only remembered earlier.
That's pre-record, and I like pre-record better because then you're not like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
Because when you do live radio, you've got to always be thinking, right, okay, I can't talk when they're talking. I've got to wait one beat until they're finished. I can't interrupt. I can't get overexcited, and it's so hard, isn't it, to not get overexcited and just blurt something out.
This is why I prefer pre-recorded, because like it's the ending of the conversation. You know, when like you do the byes and you're like bye, and then like it feels so awkward. Like, see ya. You know what I mean? It was good. It was good.
Yeah, because in live, when you do a live and they say goodbye to you, bang, they're gone, mate.
Yeah,
the screen's black. We're all quite positive. I think all of our welcomes there, where we just spoke about how the week's been. I think there's more there's always more positives there than
there's always positive. I think it's a hard one, especially like with socials, like because my brand, as it were, I try and be quite balanced with how I talk to kids. I don't like the whole toxic positivity where people are like, no, but having autism is great and being autistic is great and having autistic children, it's all wonderful and it's not shit. And I think like it's great if you genuinely feel like that, but I don't think anyone actually genuinely feels like that. So I think it's good to kind of talk about a bit of everything and the highs and the lows. And
I always say the highs and the lows are the most important part, because you can't not everyone's happy lappy all day every day, and it's not the way our lives live. So to connect to people, you've got to have the balance of both sides.
I think my approach is like I try to focus a lot of my energy on the positives whilst acknowledging the negatives and like giving that support when it's needed, but trying to put my main focus on the positives, because I find that things start to shift more towards the positive because that's the energy I'm giving out, so it's what we attract. And it has worked for us quite well.
100%. And I like a reframe. I like to meet people where they're at. You know, like, because then you validate their struggle, don't you? You know, like we don't meet a lot of our targets, but we still celebrate absolutely everything, because where he's at, that's massive. So it might not be massive to everyone else. So I think you should always reframe things, because even in a negative, if you make the target smaller, there's always a positive there. There's always a positive in everything. If you have realistic targets that are achievable. There's no point in me saying, oh, I'm going to buy Oscar a bike this weekend, he's going to be riding it by Sunday. No, he's not, because that's not a realistic target based on where he's at. That's a generic target of 10-year-old boys, but actually where he's at, we might need to just sit on the bike for a little while first with some stabilizers on and get off again and celebrate that we've done that, and then that would still be a positive. So I do think it's about mindset and how you look at things.
It's shifting your perspective.
But it's always good, isn't it? If there's always positive. Do you know what I mean? Even
because you know, like when you said about unrealistic, so like if a child, for example, I had this conversation with a family actually who they were struggling because there was a lot of anxiety with their child, and after a conversation I realized that there was a lot of focus on that child's struggles. So I'll give you, for example, a child who's dyslexic, a lot of the support they get in school is constantly trying to almost erase their dyslexia, but they're going to be a dyslexic adult one day, and they're always going to have challenges in that area. So rather than focus on that you know, that side of things, that's never going to change, and kind of just constantly highlighting to that child that you've got something wrong with you in a way like that. How about looking for their strengths and shining a light on that to give them the confidence to then approach their struggles? And they was like, oh my God, we never thought of that. So I was like, okay, cool. So when your child is in class and they're doing, say, I don't know, creative writing, I guarantee you, I can guess, that your child's probably the most creative in that class, probably has the best ideas when it comes to writing the stories. They just struggle with, you know, the spelling and the writing and so on. How about, rather than focusing on trying to make them be like everyone else with, you know, their struggles that aren't ever going to go away, so they can't anyway, it's just a wasted effort, why don't you put some reasonable adjustments in place and help that child to get those amazing ideas out? Because it's kids like that who change the world, who are people who go down in history and are innovative and creative and have all these amazing ideas, but instead they're being restricted because you're too busy focusing on trying to teach them about spellings and so on. And we got contacted not long after, and they was like, it's completely changed our world. He's now confident because we're focusing on, you know, the amazing things he has to offer, and now he's approaching, you know, with a confident and can-do attitude, which is it's got better results as well. And that's
you know what,
the things people don't think of.
That's reminded me of something that someone said to me once. Was Albert Einstein, who they reckon was autistic, is autistic. He struggled at school, and instead of making him conform, his mum took him out, and he had no homeschooling, but he had an obsession and focus on science, and this is where obviously he did a lot. And she encouraged that, and look what he got. Look how amazing he did. And that is something that stuck with me, because he's, you know, a person that we all look up to, or we all know of being and doing great things, but didn't have no education and struggled at school.
Did you know that he's the first person recorded to wear sensory clothing? Because Albert Einstein would only wear the same really super comfy sweatshirt, and he cut the label out of it. He would never wear a shirt. And nobody associated that with sensory dressing, and he was known for being scruffy. But actually what he was doing was removing those irritations. But people just thought he was just a scruffy old thing who always wore the same top because that's what he was, just scruffy. But actually it was because he was meeting his sensory need.
But it just goes to show, doesn't it? He's someone who's gone down in history, and he had all of those challenges, but what was focused on was his strengths. And I'm just a really strong believer in that, because I feel like I've gone through life and all of the good stuff I do is overshadowed and not even recognized because there's so much focus on conforming to society. But if everybody just, you know, was really good at English, maths and science, can spell, had perfect handwriting, you know, wore certain clothes, behaved in a certain way, could you imagine the world? Like, everyone
would be boring.
You wouldn't have half the technology we've got now.
Exactly. That's all the art, or the music, or the amazing movies that we watch, and the books that we read, and all of that stuff. Because not everybody is supposed to be the same, with the same personality and the same strengths and focuses and so on. It's what makes diversity in the world so amazing.
But also, in any list of anything you can't do, you can create a list of things you can do within that. Anyway. So
that's what I do with my kids. My son doesn't like football. He struggles with all the people and the, you know, the running around and controlling the ball. But he really enjoys basketball. So I'm not going to constantly be like, oh, you can't do football, you can't do sports, and put it all under sports. Okay, well, let's find something that you can do. There's loads of things that he can do. We don't focus on what he can't do. We do give him the extra support, yes, but let's focus on the good stuff. And that's just our
when I first completed Oscar's first ever EHCP, legit, the only strength I could find was that he was really fast at running. And she said, take that out. That's not relevant. I said, it is. You're not taking it out. Like you're not taking it out because that is something that he is really good at.
Yeah.
Proper fast running. Couldn't think of anything else. But obviously when we came to the review, we've got loads. But that's because he was really under supported, underrepresented at like 3.5 years old, and was just like a scribble. And it wasn't that the strengths weren't there, it's that we didn't stop long enough to even find any, because we was just putting out mini fires all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a massive reframer. I think if you've got a list of stuff you can't do, you can easily create a longer list of stuff you can, because within every single one of them, if you break them down, because you wouldn't struggle with the whole problem, you could probably put reasonable adjustments into everything on that list, and they would be massively successful at it.
Yeah.
But I refuse to take part in any conversations about what anyone, not just Oscar, but I'm not going to sit and take part in a conversation that includes what people can't do, because that's placing a limit on them based on your understanding. You don't know what they can do. They know what they can do, but you don't. You shouldn't assume, and unless it's me and tech, then you can definitely assume that I definitely can't do that, and I'm definitely and it doesn't matter what reasonable adjustments you put in, because I'm still not going to be able to do it. But yeah, I'll just shut it down. All the negatives, I think we're all quite good at shutting it down. Things of attention and
definitely.
The ones that have the negatives, they don't have an understanding of it. It's like yesterday, Stephen Bartlett put out that podcast, didn't he? And it was professor. I need to do a post on it. And basically what he was saying was, he was like, oh, obesity causes autism, diabetes causes autism. Didn't give a study or any example of where he'd got that from. So don't know where he's found that.
Why the hell have they released it then? Someone as intelligent as Stephen Bartlett, why the hell are you releasing that?
I like Stephen Bartlett as an individual businessman. I respect him. He needs to stop with trying to talk about autism and ADHD, because since he's decided, like, obviously he's been diagnosed with ADHD, and he keeps doing things about it. And I understand it's probably an interest of his, but he's bringing on all these people who want to like point fingers. And when you actually listen to the conversation, like the guy turns around at the end and he's like, well, you know, these parents that just give their kid a pill and they give them melatonin because they don't sleep. And I'm like, mate, if you have ever been up every hour with a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old who cannot sleep because they cannot get themselves regulated, you can't comment, you know. And you can, I don't know what it's like in America. I think it's a lot more accessible to be able to go to a shop and buy melatonin.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
A lot more accessible, whereas here, like, you have to go through sleep diaries. I had to argue with the paediatrician.
They wouldn't even give it to Chase.
Oh, well, no, they refused Brody at first, and I went absolutely batshit, and then they were like, okay, you can have it. And you know,
I had to Oscar in there. I was like,
I didn't go to that stage. I kind of just gave up and was like, okay, fine.
I had to Oscar in there. I was like, he is broken. He does not sleep in the day or at night. I'm not leaving here till he gives me something, because I literally will die if I don't get any sleep.
That's what it took us to get Tommy medication. 2 years of fighting it got to the point I had to say, it's dangerous. It is to the point where he can't survive much longer like this. I can't. Something's going to happen, and there's either going to be an accident and then at the same time, obviously, we were going through assessments for HCPs, and it was all to focus on what he couldn't do. And I'm like, but you don't know, and you're not giving him a fair chance because he's not sleeping. You could help with that. But I find this with like negative comments. It's the negative connotation from people that don't understand. And Tommy's really sensitive. So I've noticed, and it's a thing that I've got at school, they're not allowed to talk about what he can't do, because he will pick up on that. And then he's like, well, I'm no good, mummy. I can't do that. And I'm like, but you can. And I will find ways that he can do it, because I think otherwise you're limiting. It's the thing that I've noticed growing up. I was always told by friends mainly, or who I thought were friends, what I couldn't do. And then you are told that so often, you believe it.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, I can't do it. Why would I bother? I'm going to fail. And then people that don't want you to succeed, or don't want your child to succeed, or can't be bothered to put the work in, have you exactly where they want you.
Well, yeah, because you let people place limits on you, you see. And if you refuse that conversation completely, people don't place limits on you because you're not entertaining that. Yeah, but that depends what groups you're in. That depends what how you brought up. It depends what family you're in. Like Charlotte, you were saying you got to a certain age where you were like, hold on a minute, I've got a mind of my own. Danielle, that was the experience you had of those friendship groups. So there it was like normal. Yeah, going on to that documentary I watched last night about that Gypsy Rose. She didn't even know how old she was because she didn't know any different. That was her world, what she lived in.
Exactly.
So a flip on that is I have a child who is so overly confident with no skills, bless his heart, in terms of if you told him he could fly, he'd believe you. He's in the mirror with his little eating disorder, all skinny, going, I'm strong. And in his head, he believes he's like Arnold Schwarzenegger with tiny little skinny arms. But I don't think that at this age that's harmful. I wouldn't in teenage years keep encouraging him to be like, you're amazing, you're the best thing on the planet, you can do whatever you want, because that's a miseducation. But I think at this age, in the nurturing early years, I do want him to feel like he could fly to the moon in a rocket if he wants to, and that he's the strongest boy on the planet, and that he's really super clever. The reality of that is he can't even stand on one leg because he falls over. That's the reality of it. But in his head, he's the best boy in the world, and what a lovely thing.
Yeah. And then you can adapt it as they get older anyway. So you can change it to things like you can be more than what people have said you are. So with my kids, I try to show them that actually this is the world we live in. There's all these amazing things you want to do. If we try really hard, then there's loads that you can achieve. And even a few days ago, Skepta, the music artist, he wrote a tweet about being autistic. Yeah, and do you know what? I've been a massive fan of Skepta and his brother JME since I think I was like a teenager. Like from back in the day, before they were famous, I've been a massive fan of theirs. And I always got autism vibes. Yeah. As I've gotten older and now I know more about autism and I look back at him, I've always had that vibe anyway. But I've just always been a really huge fan because they're North Londoners, they're Nigerian, they are into the music that I, grew up listening to, and now to have it confirmed that he's also autistic, that is an amazing positive representation that I can take to my son and say, look, not only is he from North London like us, he's Nigerian like us, he's music that we like and the same culture. I said, but guess what as well? He's also autistic. That's amazing. But we don't get so many people that are willing to give us that, positive example of things that our kids can grow up to be. So I could turn around and say, look at all the amazing things he's achieved. And he's got so much in common with you. There's nothing saying that you can't achieve that as well. And now I have an actual example of it. And that's what we need, more examples for kids to look and say, I can be like that, which is why I'm all for, princesses from Disney from all over the world and different backgrounds and all these kind of things. And Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Do you know how happy Chase was to see a Spider-Man that looked like him? Like, positive representation is so important for our kids to see these examples. But up until now, there weren't many people who are neurodivergent speaking out and claiming it. Even Stephen Bartlett, as much as I respect the man, I do feel like we are a trending topic. And it's just sometimes I'm like, is it another business model? Like, or is this genuine? Because when you're then going to release information that's not been confirmed and these ignorant comments and without any research, and we all know that it's wrong. And I don't care if the guys in America, you, Stephen Bartlett, are British, okay? And not just that, but autism and neurodiversity is all over the world. So I don't give a damn what's in America. How about you just put some facts out there, have a bit of empathy? Like,
I think it comes down to lived experience as well, because you get a lot of people that may relate to that and they may have a limited knowledge to talk about that. But as long as you're always doing it within your lived experience, I think people like Stephen Bartlett, because they're so influential, he's talking generically. So that's a different debate, because people call him out, and then those people that are calling him out have debate with each other. He's got to be really careful about his social footprint, I think.
And sometimes I wonder if it's all to do with getting a spotlight, though, because negative.
It's click. What did you say? Clickbait or bait? Bite.
Because me, for example, I'm not going to speak on something that I don't know about and claim it as being gospel, firstly. But secondly, even when I speak about autism and ADHD and other neurodivergent conditions and things that I go through in life, I don't put it out there as in this is this and that is that. And do you know what I mean? You always have to have a really rounded view, because it's damaging otherwise. And when you do have a platform like his, I'm not being funny, you have a duty to put the right information out there, or just click on it, because it's dangerous.
We even had to do that, didn't we, Corinne, yesterday? You know, we was talking about ARFID. I had to say, we're not medical professionals. This is just our lived experience of it. Because that all should go without saying, anyway, but you have to say that. But even more so when you're a public figure, like a lot of people listen to him, a lot of people will take everything that he says as gospel. And I think it's really important that he needs to say, these are my views on it and that person's views on it. It's not the gospel, because all of these things that they're discussing, that it's a really vulnerable audience. I mean, don't get me started about vulnerable audiences, but it is a really vulnerable audience. And I think that if you're making a lot of money out of a business model because you're making yourself a public figure, because you know he is a clever guy, maybe be a bit more clever with people, because people are not a business. So it's hard, because if you're talking about something that's relevant to you, that's totally fine. If you're talking about something that could potentially make other people feel in a certain way, then you have got to be really, really super careful.
Like, obviously we're all very well informed people, we're very sure of ourselves, we understand, and we're very good at advocating for ourselves. Me 5-6 years ago, who didn't understand that I was autistic, and going back to what you were saying about your kids, when I was growing up, obviously I was diagnosed, so I've kind of got a slightly different slant on it. I was always kind of made to feel very much like I was incompetent, and I don't think a lot of it was ever intentional. I think a lot of it was from a place of like, oh, let's protect her. But it was like everyone else was allowed to do certain things, but I couldn't, because I might hurt myself, or I might be on the road, or I might whatever. It was always assumed that I would not be able to succeed, or I'd not be able to do something. And I would kind of have to go out of my way to prove that I could do things. Like, I'm 31 years old now, and I can still remember things that happened when I was 5, 6, whatever, where different people have said things to me, and that still impacts me now. And that's not me blaming people. It just is fact. And I think a lot of it comes from what they were told about autism at the time, and what my parents were told, and they were like, right, this is that, she's never going to do this, blah blah blah, and they carried that with them. So whereas other children, or like even like with my son, like we're very encouraging now, like he's just started dance, and because like Chase, he's not particularly like his coordination isn't great. If he wanted to do football, I'd put him in football regardless. He's got no interest in football, he's got no interest in any kind of sport, but he's so musical, he's very like musically inclined, he's got amazing rhythm. And a local dance club started literally around the corner from me, and the guy's lovely. He's doing Autism's Got Talent, actually, his dance teacher.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's Heights Dance Academy, and the guy Drew, who runs it, he's amazing, and he's very pro sen. So when I said to him, oh, like, you know, blah 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 about Broad, he was like, honestly, he's like, he can come and run around and it's fine, like we're not going to make him do stuff. And they're doing a Easter performance, and they're being cats. No, but Brody's like obsessed with cats. He's obsessed with cats. And he's obsessed with like Sylvester and Tweety and Tom and Jerry. He loves cats, and he keeps going, I thought I saw a pretty cat. I did.
Love him. It's cute.
He copies Tweety, he sort of jumps, he goes, I did saw a pretty cat. He does it all. And because they're doing this cat thing, and like the dance teacher was like, there's absolutely no pressure for Brody to do the final show, like I'll get on stage with him, I don't mind, la la la, like he was like, whatever, If he decides on the day he wants to do it, great. If he decides on the day he doesn't, that's no problem. Like, do you know what I mean? He's like, there's no pressure. And I was like, all right, cool. And Brody come in, I went, Brody, show him your sweetie pie. And he'd done it, and he was like, oh my God, we'll have to get him to do that at the beginning. And
I love that.
like, between us, we were like, oh, what if we could kind of get him to do that, and that'd be his little role, and then they could go on and do the dance, but he still has to it.
And look at that. Look at that.
But
Nurturing him.
That's inclusion, right?
That's inclusion.
Yeah, and and that is meeting him where he is. And I think how many other people would look at that and go, no, he has to do the dance and he has to stand there, and if he doesn't do it, do you know what I mean? And
it's not the place for him. Yeah.
And there's no leeway. And I just think, I look back at kind of like going back to the whole Stephen Bartlett thing, I just think it causes so much damage, because it's all right for us because we understand that there's a lot of people who grow up in cultures where, like, it's not spoken about. They their child might be the first autistic person they've ever met, right? Like, how bloody...
Somebody struggling with weight will be then blaming themselves for their child's diagnosis. Can you imagine? And it doesn't take two brain cells for people to realize that. So someone as intelligent as him, that's why it bothers me so much, because you need to do better, or just and go talk about business, what you do know.
Yeah, and that demographic of people who they may have just got a diagnosis for their child, or they might be going down the pathway, or they might not even know, or whatever, that will be the demographic that go, do you know what? I don't want to label my child.
Exactly.
And then they hide it, and then it's a problem because they're not getting the support they need, and so on and so forth.
And then the cycle continues where that child's unsupported, and then this is why we get late diagnosis. So, do better, Stephen Bartlett. Do better.
And then you've got, people like us, women like us who are advocating for our kids, and then like looking at it going, here we go, all that work we are doing, we're now going back a bit.
Every someone with a big platform does something like this, it knocks us about 10 steps back. And
it does.
There are people that are trying. You've got Christine McGuinness, you've got Katie Price, you've got Mrs. Hinch now, Skept up now, we've got Skept, which is amazing. Kat Burns is another one. She's autistic, and she's Burns is the singer.
Yeah.
So she's autistic ADHD. She came out of her diagnosis weren't that long ago, actually. I'd say about 6 months ago.
I watched someone on the news this morning as well. Who's those two guys? They were in a group called, is it Happy Mondays?
Oh, Bez and Sean Ryder.
Yeah. Sean is autistic. He was talking about it this morning. Yeah, and a lot of it is to do with his I think he said his kids have all started to get like diagnosis, which then led to them like saying to him and then him. But how amazing, like, again, just spoken about in a positive way.
Yeah.
Rather than spreading misinformation that's damaging. But your story about Brody reminded me of something that happened when Chase was in reception. When he came up one day and his teacher stopped me and she said, the Christmas play's coming up, we want Chase to play Joseph. And I looked at her and I went, oh, even though, bearing in mind, you know what I'm like, right? I'm the one who's always pushing for the positivity, but I was just really confused by it. And I said, Chase? She said, yeah, I can think of no one better. And I said, this is going to sound really bad, but can I ask why? Because obviously, you know, he's nonverbal, you know, obviously he struggles with understanding direction and so on. And I said, and obviously Joseph in the Christmas nativity is a big deal. And she went, I've never met a child that's more happy and more confident and more able to do the part. So Chase is going to be our Joseph. And he absolutely smashed it because they just put reasonable adjustments in place. They did extra performances and rehearsals and stuff to make sure he understood what he had to do and where he needed to be. And he just got that extra support. And he was Joseph. And it was absolutely amazing because they made it so that he didn't need to have any speaking parts or anything that was too much. But he was there centre stage because he had the confidence. So whereas some kids may be able to do the lines and may be able to understand the direction but don't have the confidence, they instead used what his positives were, and it was amazing, and he absolutely smashed it. So yeah, I'm really happy that Brody School are also, there's East Dance School doing the same.
Okay. So we're at the point now of the episode where we're going to be reading out a dilemma. So we asked people to send them in. Thank you so much. And we're just going to pick one every week and go from there. So this is the one that kind of come through first. So it's I've got no friends. It's always been so difficult for me to make friends, even at work. I'm shy and insecure, and what other people think of me makes it so hard to make new friends. I don't know what to do, and I feel really alone. So thank you for sending that in. She's just put 27F, so she doesn't want to be named.
I always felt like I was someone who had loads and loads of friends. And so in my mind, you know, socially, I'm doing all right. But then when I got older and I started to notice when I first went to secondary school, and I kind of just hid it, but it always resonated with me. And then when I become an adult and I was at work, I noticed it more, that I struggle to speak to people that I don't know. I get really anxious in situations. It wasn't just shyness, but actually literally used to make me feel physically sick, the thought of trying to speak to people and put myself out there. And the only time I really could interact with people was if they made the first move, or if I was in a situation where I had to speak to people. And yeah, I've just noticed as the years have gone by that that's an issue. But then when I went for my ADHD and autism assessments, that's when it came out that I actually have a social anxiety disorder. And when they deep dive with me back to childhood, it went right back to nursery, when I used to like hide under the table initially when I first started, and like just cry because I was terrified of speaking to other kids. And then when my nan used to take me to play centre, even though I loved play centre, on the days when my cousins weren't there or people that I already knew, I would again hide in the under the table in the playground and just be absolutely terrified of being there without those people who were like my comfort blankets in a way. And I still struggle with this now. There's times when I've had to go to networking events and I'm so awkward. I get really hot. I get heart palpitations, and it's like the most terrifying experience for me. And going to like a friend's birthday, if they have a different group of friends to me, I'm there as their friend, but I'm really uncomfortable and not actually enjoying it because I'm so uncomfortable. I've noticed that actually over time, there's so many different factors. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm just a bit shy, or, oh, you know, I struggle to find something in common. But it's far deeper than that. When it is actual, you know, diagnosis, like being like neurodivergent, can be related to rejection sensitivity or social anxiety disorders, and, you know, certain interests that you struggle to find being related to other people with certain things like autism and so on. And sometimes it's about breaking it down and finding ways to cope in a way. So like, I prefer to be in situations when I've got a +1, because they're my comfort. I won't go somewhere by myself unless I really have to. And having those kind of things really do help. Yeah, that's what helps me basically. So I take tea or a friend with me everywhere I go.
I think slow exposure as well, you know, it can be really overwhelming, can't it? New social experiences. So I think slow exposure, and I think only slowly expose yourself in really safe spaces. So, you know, there are a lot of groups online you can create friendships with, build on those, get your confidence up, get used to speaking to people in an area where you can shut that down if you want. I don't think socializing has always got to be about getting ready and leaving your safe space. I think you can socialize really safely online in safe groups and build your confidence up. And I think you have to kind of trust the universe a bit. Your people are your people. Don't go out of your way to people please. Don't, you know, because I think it's about networking, and one person will lead you to another person. I think don't force it. Retain, I think, your boundaries with that, because, you know, people that are very vulnerable, they are open to being, you know, verbally abused or mistreated, and those experiences tend to lead on to another one, and then you can get into very negative cycles. So I would say don't rush social experiences. Slow exposure, and maybe, you know, things that have been recommended to you that other people have tried. Like, I went to this group, it was really good, I found, you know, and ask them about their experiences, and then measure or not whether you think that's all right with you, rather than doing something that's a bit dynamic that you might put yourself at risk. I think going slow is better, and having a bit of a structure there so that you don't become overwhelmed, because overnight you could have 10 friendships and you might not feel safe in them, and then you could end up being coerced or becoming part of something that is perhaps part of something that's bigger than you think, and become involved in things that you don't want to become involved in, because a lot of the social stuff as well, it's not policed.
No.
You know, so you have to, I think, go on good recommendation of someone that's trusted before you join a group. And also, can I just say, don't ever agree to meet anybody online that you don't know as well, because I think the safety elements are there to, you know, you have to have those. It doesn't go without saying that we're safe. And also, like you said, Charlotte, take someone with you. No one's got to go anywhere on their own. Even if you took someone with you and you said, look, I want to make out that I'm on my own, but I want you there in the room. Yeah, it's not about being taken somewhere like you're a child. It's about knowing that that support is there if you need it.
Yeah, but not just that. Some people obviously don't have someone to take as a +1, because obviously I can only speak from my personal experience. And there's times when I really want to go somewhere and I don't have anyone to go with me, and so I just don't end up going. But I think it's really important to recognize what the actual barrier is for you in specific social environments, because there are times when I literally am really shy, really uncomfortable, and having a panic attack because I'm so anxious and not enjoying the social experience. But other times when I could be the most outgoing, confident person in the room, because it's a different type of social setting. So like, if I'm going somewhere for a purpose, like to run one of my workshops, I'm totally fine, because I'm there to fulfill something and I'm there to support people and help them. So it's like I have a role that I'm there for. Whereas other times when I feel like I need to initiate a conversation, or it's different. So it's really hard. It's one that's always kind of bugged me, because I'm like, why is it that I can run my coffee mornings and run a workshop and I'm like literally so confident and fine, but then you put me in a totally different situation where I don't even have to speak to that many people. I don't even have that responsibility. I can literally hide in a corner and I'm terrified. And it doesn't quite make sense to me, but the only way that I can kind of understand it a little bit is that I've got a role in that situation and it takes away that barrier. Some people might, you know, it might just be because they're in an environment that's unfamiliar to them, or having a +1, or maybe they have sensory aversions and that, but always try to break it down. What is it that is causing that for you? And then try and understand that individual part of the issue is what's helped me, really. Because I just used to just get on with it and just be an absolute quivering mess all the time when I didn't need to be.
Definitely. I think another important thing is to find groups and people that get you, instead of trying to maybe go to a group locally that you might not like. And I find that my social anxiety side will drop if I'm talking to people who have the same interests as me and have that same life in a way. I mean, growing up, I literally had one best friend through the whole of school, and we had a very on and off friendship. I found that, you know, I didn't really engage with people as such. I was kind of the one that would just sit there, and everyone would talk and I'll just be the ones. They'd be like, oh, it's just Corinne. Like, I never felt included, but that was because I struggled to engage with others. And it does have a lasting effect. But I think the older you get, and the more you understand who you are, the way you think, the way our minds are, you accept that that's part of it, and that you don't have to have, you know, a big valley of friends, like, you know, 20 odd 30 odd friends to be happy. And until you find your people, like I think I definitely have the past year, it's made me a lot happier. And it's taken 29 years to do that. So, you know, it's never too late. And my advice would be to not force yourself to go into situations if you don't feel comfortable. You know, you are allowed to say no. You're allowed to, you know, as I always say, no is a full sentence. You do not have to. Someone, you know, I'll be like, oh, do you want to come out with us to the cinema? And you might not want to go. You don't have to go. And that's what I'm kind of trying to get at here. That it's okay to have your own time and find people that just get it, really. Yeah.
You know what, something you did say that resonated with me though, and it kind of brought back memories, is also, I think, perception. So sometimes in certain situations, especially with things like rejection sensitivity, we might not feel included or feel like we're one of the group, or like we might feel like we're a bit of an outsider, whereas other people have a different view and think, what are you talking about? Of course you were part of. And I know that a lot of my friends would think that, you know, what, you have these feelings, or they'd be really shocked sometimes to hear me express myself in this way, because I've always kind of masked it. But I've always just been comfortable around the friends that have happened to be mine, whether it be I've had one friend that I'm close to and they've been the one that's outgoing, and then they've then brought extra people into the group and have become my friends by default without the barriers that make me uncomfortable, which meant that in certain situations, there have been times when I have had really big groups of friends. But it's only really as an adult where I look at it and think, if you were to take away all of my friends, I would really struggle to make a friend, because I can't. I've always had kind of almost like enablers that have kind of assisted without realizing. But I remember being at school and thinking how uncomfortable and awkward I felt, and not wanting to engage and get in with the groups, even though from the outside you look in and think that I was always around groups and like the popular kids and all that kind of stuff. But to me, I felt so out of place, but I just never shared that. I just hid it. And it only really, again, when I was doing my assessments, and, you know, like they ask you questions and really deep dive and make you think, and they ask you questions in a way where you think about how you felt in those moments and what experiences you had. Even my mum turned to me and she was like, I never knew any of that. I never knew that you used to go to play centre and hide and cry. I never knew that you had these panic attacks when you were in social settings and so on. But it's because we hide it, masking, and which is probably why a lot of us are late diagnosed as well.
The rejection sensitivity is definitely a huge part of it. Sure, you got your toy. Wow. It is a huge part of it. I think I'm pretty sure rejection sensitivity is probably one of the main reasons why we struggle to make them friendships. In fact, it probably is the only reason, because it's that whole, they're not going to like me, they're going to think this of me, they're going to assume I'm like this, and it stops you.
Before, during and after, when you do your, when you think back and you do your little review, post review of, oh, I said too much, or I said this, or did I do that, or was I making the right facial expressions, and how did I come across, and and then I'm just like, oh, next time I'm just not going to bother.
You aren't even thinking that you've done anything weird or wrong. You're deciding they don't want to be friends with me. So I wonder how much of it is that, like, have people actually said to you, I don't want to be friends with you, or are you pushing it away subconsciously? You're already kind of preempting a bit of rejection. The other thing I was going to say as well is, actually don't underestimate the importance of enjoying your own company and actually yourself. Because when I was growing up, kind of similar to you, Shah, where I actually was in a big friendship circle, and but I kind of felt like I was kind of on the peripheral of it. But I think if you said that to any of them, they'd be like, no, that's not true. I felt like that. And I've had one best friend from when I was about 4. We're still best friends. She's going to be my bridesmaid at my wedding. And I was her bridesmaid at hers. But everyone else has kind of dipped in and out. And I used to find as well, like, my friendships would kind of blow up very drastically. Like, everything would be fine, and all of a sudden there'd be this like dramatic blow up, and I'd be like, what the fuck? And it just would have happened. So
hang on, I'm gonna mute now.
Yeah, fine. Oh, looking.
Oh my God,
Hello.
I love his hair so much. His little man bun.
I know you won't let me talk it. I'm gonna mute now.
Where's Luke? So
He's got to pick the boys up. He just left him.
I'll let him off. I'll let Luke
Right.
off.
Should we say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Oh, bye-bye, darling. Mwah.
Cute.
But yeah, no, but I think also, like, if you're feeling lonely, there is a lot to be said for actually feeling comfortable in your own skin and feeling comfortable in your own company.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoy just being on my own now.
So do I. And I never before. I always used to feel like, and I feel like it was because it was forced on me.
Is that getting into your 30s, or is that an age thing, or is that just becoming a mum?
I think it's finally giving myself what I probably needed at certain times, because I almost kind of felt a pressure, like a social pressure, and it's exhausting, where I have to be doing something. I have to be around people. Why am I by myself? I'm not supposed to be, kind of like it was almost forced on me. Whereas now I'm like, I love being at home by myself and enjoying my own company. And the problem is that I have now lost friends because of it. Not necessarily even lost them, like we've fallen out, but they've just fizzled out because
Happens.
I am terrible on the phone. I'm terrible with my phone, as you know. And sometimes I just need to stop. And I kind of put myself under pressure that's made me ill, to the point where I didn't need to and I shouldn't have. But now I'm finally at a point where actually, as Corinne said, no is a full sentence. And now I will just say no, actually. Do you know what? I think I should probably stay home because that's better for me. But I do also try my best, obviously, because I love, when I'm around my friends, I love them and I miss them and I love spending time with them. But I also do need to prioritize with, obviously, living for us is bloody exhausting. The responsibilities and the staying on top of things and everything else that we've got to do, trying to then factor in friendships and the time to communicate and meet up and all of these other things, I find really difficult because other stuff then gets missed, if that makes sense. So I always now, as a mum, have to prioritize what I have to do. But it's hard because I do want to still maintain my friendships. I'm just trying to do it, I guess, in a healthy way mentally.
That's all we have time for today on the Unfiltered podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and subscribe, as it helps us get seen. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at UnfiltHERed, and you can also join our Patreon. Our Patreon is £5 a month, and in that you get exclusive blogs, podcasts, bonus episodes, and Q&As with us all. All the links for those are in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and remember that
the her is no longer silent. Thank you for listening, and make sure to like and subscribe.